Cutdowns have begun. There are a couple of names out there, some surprises, some predictions today, as well as a look forward at another one of the prime games of this weekend in college football. Welcome to Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I am your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back Eric Crocker. And of course, as always, I'm joined by my co-host from Locked On Chiefs and Rogue Analytics, Ryan Tracy. And we got Rob Rang with us. Rob Rang on Twitter, also one of the hosts of Locked On Seahawks. Of course, you got Ryan Tracy at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter and at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And everything's starting. You got NFL starting. You got the big-time games in college football starting. And you have some big-time surprise cuts that were made at the NFL level with some really young players. So a couple guys from the 2021 draft class. Alex Leatherwood, he was claimed by the Chicago Bears. And Kellen Mond, released from the Minnesota Vikings. Rob, I want to start by asking you, how does Alex Leatherwood, a guy who was a first-round pick, a guy that was a top 20 pick, get released? And, dude, you're not even going to see the field for us the following year. You're just let go right now. How does it get that bad?
That is certainly a surprising one. A lot of people, I think, were surprised when Leatherwood was the 19th overall selection by the Raiders a couple of years ago. And yet I thought that he had a chance to go in the first round. I actually kind of mocked him there. Had some intel there that the Raiders were very high on him, but that was the pass regime. And that, to me, is what is being proven here, is that Leatherwood, for a guy coming from Alabama, we know that the level of competition they face, the expectations with guys like Nick Saban and all that kind of stuff. Alex Leatherwood, to me, is one of those guys who's a little bit of a victim of expectation. When you come from Alabama, when you're a first-round pick, then it's supposed to be easy. You're supposed to be able to come in and just, take the NFL by storm. And that has not been the case. I mean, he has been as up and down as it gets. So I still am encouraged by the talent that he possesses. I just think this is a case of a guy who very much needed to change of scenery, maybe a different style of coaching, because I do see some talent. But at the same time, I mean, he was an inconsistent player at Alabama as well. And while, as I mentioned, I had him going in the first round of my final mock draft, I gave him a late second round grade, which is still not a guy I expected to get released at this point. But I am not surprised that the Raiders decided to cut ties, just considering how inconsistent Leatherwood had been for them.
Ryan, I want to ask you, how do you think this will kind of play out for the Chicago Bears? They immediately claimed him, so you pick up an extra, $6.5 million, I think, that was still left on his contract. The Bears now have to pay that. Do they plug him in right away and say, all right, you're going to play right tackle for us? And by the way, week 1, you got the 49ers rolling into town. Don't worry about that guy, Nick Bosa, on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, just ignore that fact. It's not coming at you. You're going to be fine. That's the real question. I do like that you brought up specifically, Rob, about the coaching, and that's going to be the challenge for the Bears. Because if you go back, I also had a late second-round grade on him coming out. Duke Manningweather, who we all know does wonders with some offensive linemen, had some positive things to say, but was very specific about he needed an environment that really catered to the way he needed to learn and to his skill set. And so that's, I think, the fit question is, can the Bears adapt and get through to what they need to get through to make him more functional and smooth that out? Because if you take his best moments, I think he's a functional player at this level. It's just the dips. I personally see it as the dips were way lower than the highs were over the top of expectation. So if you can just raise his floor back up to where you thought he would be, I think it's a good investment. The 6.5 against the guaranteed contracts, I don't think that's anything. You also have Tevin Jenkins there that I think you're in a similar situation with, where you're trying to find how your staff can get through to these high-quality players that aren't living up to expectations, and maybe that gives them both a reset. I know positional changes are going to be interesting. I don't know. I probably would have put Leatherwood at a guard myself back when he was coming out. Let's see if they keep it there, or if it is simply plug and play, get your best 5 on the field.
And that's one other thing I would add to that is just think about the transition that that Leatherwood is going to be making. I mean, he was protecting an athletic quarterback in Derek Carr, but still not a guy like Justin Fields. And so that's one of the things too, is that when you have a mobile quarterback, and a team like the Chicago Bears that are obviously in a bit of transition with a new coach, new general manager there, then there's going to be a little bit of time to get acclimated. I just think that his game projects so much better other than the week one against the 49ers, as you mentioned, Croc. I think that his game does project better, just that division, that style of football that you're going to see, rather than the arms race and the pass rusher race that is the AFC West.
Yeah, there is one more player that was released early, and we're going to talk about the future of him coming up next. But first, we want to talk to you a little bit about Elias. And it's almost that start of the NFL season. I love this time of the year. I'm pretty sure all of you do as well. And if you're into sports betting or fantasy, you need that competitive edge to win. That's why I highly recommend Elias Game Plan app. All right, it's the ultimate sports betting and fantasy companion in the NFL, NBA, and MLB as well. All right. Elias Game Plan is the only sports app from the most trusted name in sports stats. All right. That's the Elias Sports Bureau, the official statisticians of U.S. pro sports leagues, including the NFL. All right. Their app, it lets you access the team and player stats, head-to-head team comparisons. They got the insights for you, all that and more. This app is really a one-stop source for everything that you need. Players, player news, expert on the games. It's the perfect for the preseason that just passed. They have new features like player injury analysis, availability all the time, and you can look at it anytime that you need to. All right. It's the most respected research team in the industry. Quality information is key. So I'm glad that they have created this app that keeps everything super accurate and brings important context. All right. The NFL season is right around the corner, so don't wait. Download the Elias Game Plan app today. And right now, I have a special offer when you subscribe. All right. Get a 14-day free trial off a monthly subscription plan, but only if you use my promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Find Elias Game Plan sports betting in the App Store or Play Store today and use my promo code LOCKEDONNFL. All right, guys, we want to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And now we're going to talk about another player who really was a surprise cut. And maybe a surprise cut. Yeah, the coaching change with Minnesota. The previous coach wasn't too high on him. But Kellen Mond, is it as simple as this guy just can't play in the league? He was claimed by the Cleveland Browns, but a lot of up and down going on with him. He came out of college, out of Texas A&M. He was really kind of this stiff, robotic quarterback. And the previous coach was like, look, we're not playing him. We don't care what's happening. He's not good. And now the new coach is like, yeah, he ain't good enough to play for us either. So, Rob, let's talk about it. Kellen Mond, what does the future hold for the former third-round pick?
Well, again, like we talked about previously with Alex Leatherwood going to the Chicago Bears, I do think in Cleveland you get a chance to get a reset for Kellen Mond. But while I was a little higher on Alex Leatherwood than perhaps some were, I was not a real big Kellen Mond guy. As you said, Croc, he is a little bit of a robotic kind of a player. He's got that really extended release. He holds the ball out so far. And frankly, I'm just a huge fan of the way that Jimbo Fisher has coached up quarterbacks going back to his days at Florida State as well. I mean, we've seen guys that have been superstars for him that have wound up coming into the NFL and struggling a little bit. And, one example that people like to talk about is Jameis Winston. I still think that Jameis Winston is a pretty darn good quarterback. But what about guys like Christian Ponder? And there's been several others who have wound up being selected pretty early that have really struggled once they got into the NFL. Kellen Mond, to me, is a guy who has the arm strength. He has the athletic ability. He's got a lot of heart. I believe in him as a leader. I mean, he had some big wins for the Aggies. I just didn't see an instinctive quarterback. I didn't see a guy who was able to anticipate the holes in the defense at the line of scrimmage and carry through. I saw a guy who basically stared down his primary. And then once that was taken away from him, then he basically had to tuck the ball and run. Now, obviously, in Cleveland, when you got guys like Jacoby Brissett, who's going to start the season, Deshaun Watson's going to certainly be playing at some point. I mean, this is kind of a soft landing spot for Kellen Mond, because he certainly is going to be going to a club that has faced its share of adversity. Quarterbacks in that quarterback room who have faced their share of adversity. I think they'll be able to kind of put a collective arm around him a little bit and allow him some time to grow, rather than the unrealistic expectations that were put on him, similar to Leatherwood being a high draft pick, second round draft pick. And he wasn't going to be able to compete with a guy like Kirk Cousins. I mean, Kirk Cousins is the exact opposite of Kellen Mond. Doesn't have the physical traits, but is all heart, all brain, and terrific accuracy down the field. So you mentioned the fact that the former head coach, Mike Zimmer, a defensive-minded head coach, that just wasn't going to be a fit. To me, that was really predictable. I thought it was one of the stranger selections of that draft a year ago, or 2 years ago, I guess you'd say now. And, while I wish Kellen Mond well, I'm certainly not rooting against him by any stretch. I think at the same time, he is very clearly number 3 in line in Cleveland, and that's probably the best thing for him to ultimately raise his game up to a starting NFL level.
I have to say, I had him quite a bit lower than he was selected. This isn't a surprise for me because of everything that you've mentioned, and because I just didn't see the ability to leap up into the NFL level of competition, the complexity of what he's going to have to read and deliver the football to. So I hope that he can find a new way with a fresh restart. But if there's a chance, why not Cleveland, right? If there's an injury to Brissett in any of these first 11 games, it's kind of a search committee at that point. So if you can get in and adapt in the next month and just take it easy as the guy that just has to learn, maybe that reset combined with no pressure at all can give you a sense of confidence and the ability to just get the ball out and move it along. You have a nice run game there to rely on. So if you were pressed into action at any point, that's going to take a lot of pressure off of you. And I think that's probably the best situation for him as well. So overall, if you're going to have to get reset, I think this is a good spot to do it.
Yeah, and there was one other player from a previous draft that was on the move, Jalen Reagor, a guy that was selected right before Justin Jefferson. They're now teammates in Minnesota. All right, so Reagor traded from Philadelphia to Minnesota. Do y'all have, and I'll start with you, Rob, do you have any expectations for this young guy on the move? And what happened with Reagor? And I understand, before we get your expertise, Rob, the receiver position is a tough transition. I think today it's starting to get a little easier just because these offenses are so wide open. But understanding all the site adjustments, that's a difficult transition for some of these receivers. Understanding how to get on the same page with the quarterback, with what the quarterback is seeing. You have to see the same thing. You can't just line up in one spot and think like, oh, okay, I'm going to play here all game. You got motions. You got all these different things. And he just could not figure out how to get a role up there. They had Quez Watkins, obviously Devontae Smith, and now you got A.J. Brown. So no room for Reagor there. Maybe in Minnesota. What are your expectations and your thoughts on Reagor going to Minnesota, Rob?
I just like the big playability that Reagor still possesses. I mean, the guy can flat fly. And we talked about this before with, Kellen Mond and, the quarterback situation that he had, Jimbo Fisher in college. And then he goes to Mike Zimmer. I mean, just the exact opposite, kind of a personality, kind of a background. Zimmer, of course, being a defensive guru. Now going to Minnesota, as you mentioned, Croc, I mean, he's got Justin Jefferson on the other side. He's got guys, KJ Osborne is a pretty good slot receiver as well. The expectation with Reagor is just going to be, can you be that vertical threat to kind of, create some space in the middle for Minnesota's other more established receivers to just eat? So I really like this addition by Minnesota. I think that, again, it's another opportunity to kind of hit the reset button. And then I think that you articulated pretty well, some of the challenges that Reagor faced. And again, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's coming from TCU, Gary Patterson, one of the better, defensive-minded coaches in all of the game, I mean, college or pro. But that isn't necessarily going to help a young wide receiver make that difficult transition. And let's face it, the Philadelphia Eagles have rolled the dice several times on wide receivers that have not panned out. So I think that they know what they're looking for. Howie Roseman does a great job there as far as just, Howie Roseman, does a great job there of kind of hey, if he made a mistake, let's change that rather than just kind of wait forever. And so I think that this is a club that made a wise selection or a wise move in getting rid of a player that is not in their future plans, because let's face it, it's going to be Devontae and AJ at wide receiver for Philadelphia. And I think the Eagles are very, very happy with that idea.
And for the Vikings, if you're going to land somewhere and you're trying to just be able to like corner your niche of an offense, having those two guys in Thielen and Jefferson on that roster already, that makes things a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier, a little bit do your job, bring us a different aspect that we haven't had in this offense before, and let's see what we can do with it. I like the fit, and kudos to the Vikings to go out and get somebody that fits into what their needs are too. I think everybody wins in this situation.
Yeah. Up next, we are going to talk about some rookies and their odds. Offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, who wins those awards, who are some of our favorites and their odds to do that. But first, want to have a little message for you, all right? Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? You know, what's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit. It's no big deal, right? Wrong. All right. The truth is your reaction time slows way down when you are high. You not only put yourself in danger, but you put everyone around you in danger. All right. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, that's, you got the little CBD stuff they rub in, you smoke some stuff, you got the little vape pen. If you've been doing it in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. You drive high, get a DUI. So let's talk about some of these offense and defensive rookie of the year odds. I have my BetOnline odds pulled up right here. Ryan, off top, who's one of your favorites for offensive rookie of the year? We'll all pick two, and then we'll all pick two defensive rookie of the year candidates.
Okay, on offense, it's pretty clear to me. I think he flew under the radar and he got himself in a situation, and I don't care if it's the aged quarterback, I guess we should call him experienced. Sorry about that, Marcus. Or whether it's the rookie quarterback, because they're similar enough. I think the delivery is going to be interesting. I think Drake London, next to Kyle Pitts, is one of the leaders, if not the forerunner, to make the biggest mark, especially with this quarterback class depressed, maybe not even playing for a number of these guys. It doesn't matter who's throwing the ball. I'm taking Drake London.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent selection. He certainly was one of the players that I was going to highlight as well. I just really like the combination of the running game that Smith is going to be focusing on as head coach. Atlanta Falcons, of course, he came from the Tennessee Titans. They're going to run the ball, and then throw the ball up and allow their big receivers, whether it be Drake London, whether it be Kyle Pitts at tight end / receiver, to just go up and make plays. And when you got
real quick, Rob, Drake London, his BetOnline odds to win Rookie of the Year are plus 1,100. So solid odds. But go ahead.
I'm curious to hear the odds then on my selection here. And I'll preface this by just saying, look, we know how it goes. If any one of these rookie quarterbacks winds up getting extended playing time, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, for example, if that happens, then throw all these things out the window. But still, to me, the easiest position to come in and make a splash in the NFL continues to be at running back. And Dameon Pearce, just the way things have
you took my guy. Go ahead.
Fallen for him in the Houston Texans. I mean, and then we all loved him coming out of college. I mean, you just watch the tape of Florida, you just see a battering ram, and the same thing at the Senior Bowl. I mean, all three of us were there. Of course, we saw what he could do. So yeah, I think that Drake London, Dameon Pearce, those are certainly two of the guys that BetOnline should be having some high odds on, because they're going to be players that are very much going to be in the thick of this race.
That's the guy I was thinking off the top of my head. You got Dameon Pearce playing for the Houston Texans. His BetOnline odds are at plus 1,200. He's a guy right now. Texans, they're starving for a running back. I mean, who's been the last really good running back for them? Maybe Arian Foster. I mean, that was a long time ago. He's been retired for a while now. And they want that dynamic back, man. Watching Dameon Pearce, the way he ran in the preseason, I have a hard time thinking that Rex Burkhead or anyone else that's over there, I believe they let go of Duke Johnson as well. This is his role as RB1 on his team. And if you are RB1, I think you said it best, the transition to being able to win Rookie of the Year, the transition to be able to play in the NFL if you're not a quarterback, running back is the easiest one. And it looks like, hey, they want to run downhill, and he's one of those backs that shows definitely enough burst, but he also runs with that power as well. I want to go with another guy who I'm kind of leaning towards, and that's Chris Olave, plus 1,000 on BetOnline odds, playing for the New Orleans Saints. And we know the vertical ability of him. We saw him catching touchdowns in the preseason. He's a savvy route runner and shows that necessary burst. When you look at a quarterback like Jameis Winston, as the season progresses, I feel like he's going to continue to get his feet back under him after coming off of that torn ACL injury. And the beneficiary of that is going to be Chris Olave and what he's able to do. And also, he doesn't have to be the guy. So a lot of things can play off of the other two terrific receivers they have there. We'll see what happens with Mike Thomas. He's back. He looks solid. They got Jarvis Landry. He's going to play a lot in the slot, probably do some short stuff. But to be able to stretch the field with a guy like Chris Olave and what he could do in the vertical passing game. And we all know Jameis Winston, he's not shy about pushing the ball down the field. I think that bodes very well for Chris Olave. I'd actually, and BetOnline agrees with me, put him over Drake London for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So, that's my second guy. What about you, Ryan?
I'm struggling to find a quarterback that I can believe in. We'll see what happens in Pittsburgh. I still think Ritter's the guy to start. And like Rob said, if that does happen, great, because the quarterbacks will take over. My bigger question is, what are they going to do in New York? And can Breece Hall really put his name into that hat? If it's about opportunity, it's also about what you do with that opportunity. And I have a feeling from the way that he started that they're going to have to give him the ball a little bit more than they planned on. And I hope that they're able to solidify that offensive line enough to make it worth their while. I'm just going to keep an eye on him. I can't say he's going to be the favorite, but he's going to be a guy with good odds in that list that you're looking at that I'm going to be interested in taking.
Well, and I think that's a really good point because, if we're talking about trying to win Rookie of the Year kind of stuff, then you have to have a flashy kind of performance. And that's one of the things that Breece Hall certainly did throughout his entire career at Iowa State. You know that the New York Jets are going to have to protect the young quarterback. And so one of the easiest ways to do that is just to turn and hand the ball off. And Breece Hall is a special talent. Ken Walker in Seattle is a special talent as well. But, of course, he's already got a pretty established back, albeit one who struggled with injuries, and Rashad Penny ahead of him. On that same kind of note, how you have to make some splashy plays. We live in an era, gentlemen, as you guys well know, the social media era, that if you don't create a big play, if it's not something you can see on Twitter or something in 5 seconds, then people lose attention. They just don't, they're not paying attention anymore. And so to me, the guy who has made the splashiest plays so far in the preseason is our friend George Pickens. We've talked about him going all the way back, and what he has done in Pittsburgh in those limited snaps. Now, again, the inconsistency at quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, limits Pickens in terms of fantasy, perspective. But in terms of just flashy catches, flashy blocks downfield, and a team that is willing to just give their rookies an opportunity to really seize momentum, I think that Pickens in Pittsburgh is another one that we should be looking at as a possible Rookie of the Year candidate, especially if Kenny Pickett is able to get on the field with him.
Well, George Pickens has the best odds, or worst odds. He has the highest odds to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Real quick, do you guys want to fire through maybe a Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year guy? So, I'll start real quick. I'll throw a name out there, Jalen Petrie. He's the first guy that kind of came to mind, but I think outside of him, because it's hard for a secondary member to get it, I say the guy that has the highest odds, and that's Aiden Hutchinson. We always see those edge rushers. When they're in there, they're getting tackled for losses, sacks. It only takes so many to where you can just win that award, and he's at plus 400. So I think they believe it's kind of far and away going to be Aiden Hutchinson. But, Rob, do you have any favorite for Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Well, I think that, again, Aiden Hutchinson, like you said, Trayvon Walker, obviously there's going to be so many eyes on them that if they do much of anything for a team like the Jaguars or the Lions, respectively, two clubs, of course, they've struggled. If either one of them is able to have a significant rookie season and their club maybe surprises some people, I think there's going to be so much hype about them. Like with Aiden Hutchinson, for example, being a star on Hard Knocks and singing, doing his Michael Jackson impersonations and things. I think that's going to create so much buzz for for him. And, oh, by the way, he's a terrific player. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I'll say this. I think if this defensive back class is a little bit better than people people talked about. Everybody hyped up Derek Stingley. They hyped up Sauce Gardner, and for a good reason. But the most impressive rookie defensive back that I have seen has been Trent McDuffie. And that's not just because, University of Washington. It's because the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion, are truly, truly one of the elite teams. I do expect McDuffie to start. I do expect every one of those quarterbacks in the AFC West to try and pick on the rookie. And I also do expect McDuffie to kind of be a winner of some of those battles as well. I think that's going to result in some interceptions. You get 5, 6, 7 interceptions for a playoff contending team, that can get you Defensive Rookie of the Year honors as well. And I bet the odds are not nearly as high on McDuffie as they are, say, Hutchinson or, Trayvon Walker.
I'm glad
Ryan, I see you shaking your head. Do you agree?
I do, and I'm glad you brought up McDuffie because I was going to mention him if you didn't, because I think it is about opportunity. I think he'll get more opportunities because of the rookie status and the other guys in that backfield to have an opportunity to make plays on the ball than he did at Washington. He's playing in man coverage a lot more. There's going to be opportunity there. I think that's a big plus. But since you already took him, I'll say this. I think the guy that reaps the opposite of that benefit is the guy who isn't getting target at all because the whole league's scared of Sauce. Eventually, you got to throw at the guy what he does to make that big splash play. He might be the top end. If he gets off to a fast start, look out.
All right, y'all, man. That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On NFL Draft. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day and every day. Now, for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022, an 8-episode extravaganza to get ready for the NFL season that is about to start next week. The local team experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from our guy Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Search for the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. But as I mentioned, that's going to do it. We'll see y'all Friday. We'll talk some more about some of the big games this weekend. Until then, we're out. Peace.